Babe, today I'm going to share some tips on how people who identify as empaths or highly sensitive people can set and hold their boundaries. As an empath myself and somebody that is just like cued in to the humanity of the world and my surroundings around me and what people are feeling, it can be so hard to hold and set my own boundaries because I don't want to hurt feelings, right? And I don't want to come across in certain ways, and I start to worry about things, and it can be almost sensory overload. And so I want to share a couple clarifying tips on how highly sensitive people and people who are very empathetic can hold and set boundaries, particularly when it comes to high school and school. So let's talk about this today. The other day I had one of my very closest friends come over to the house, and we were talking just about life, and she said, Abby, I saw, I had just been on this TV segment. She's like, I saw your TV segment. You're talking about when friends kind of break up. She's like, do you have tips for adult friends? And I need to break up with an adult friend. And we talked about it for a second. And basically the bottom line of our conversation was setting boundaries is hard. It is hard and uncomfortable and painful. And it really got me thinking about this video because we're both empaths, me and my friend, and I come from a family of empaths, right? And that just means that we really feel, right? We're sensitive. And sometimes I would use the word highly sensitive. And just sometimes the humanity of the world can be a little bit overwhelming for me. And so just the thought of hurting another human being's feelings or making them feel uncomfortable or having hard conversations can be so tough. And I'm a life coach. I teach this to people, and it can be so tough. And so I wanted to break down some rules for individuals who are highly sensitive on how you can hold your boundaries. And the first thing, it's not gonna surprise you, we need to get really good at saying no. We need to get so good at saying no. And I have two thoughts from ladies way smarter than me. So Brene Brown said, choose discomfort over resentment. Oh. That is so true in my life. There have been so many times that I have chosen the comfort of not saying anything, but it leads to resentment. It leads to me feeling like, oh, I don't like this person anymore for the sole reason that I didn't stick up for my own boundary, right? If somebody doesn't know about our boundary or they've crossed a boundary, and if we don't correct them, that's on us. That's not on them. So remember that quote. Write it down. It's by Brene Brown. Choose discomfort over resentment, right? That can kind of help us get over this no, because we're not going to avoid the negative emotion, right? We're either going to have negative emotion when we say yes, we're going to feel bad and think about it, and why did I do that, and I need to be stronger, and all that negative emotion of beating ourselves up. And if we say yes, that's what happens. And if we say no to this person, right, or set this boundary, we're going to have the discomfort of that conversation, right? And that pain of that moment of I've hurt their feelings, or we have to talk about this. Whether we say yes or no, it's not like we're avoiding negative emotion when it comes to protecting our boundaries. So let's remember that. And one thing I love, Jody Moore teaches this, another life coach that I follow and do a lot of work with. She always says, saying no isn't hard. It's your thoughts around saying no that becomes really hard and challenging, because we think they're going to think this and they're going to be upset and all these, we create the story around it. So just be really good at saying no and then not diving into the thoughts that we have all behind it. So choose discomfort over resentment every time. Okay, this tip is going to seem so weird, so follow me with it, okay? And that is to protect your physical space. Now, I don't even necessarily mean this as a boundary, and we should have boundaries on our physical space. And most of us do without even thinking about it, right? We wouldn't let somebody come up on the street and hit us without moving away and screaming and yelling for help, right? But I've noticed that with highly sensitive individuals and myself in this category, that when we're starting to feel overwhelmed, and when we start to feel like we're getting a boundary pushed and we're not sure how to confront an individual about it, we start to get really freaked out about this personal space. And I've noticed that for myself, what happens is I it just becomes what I focus on, and it just becomes what my mind gets carried away with. And then that in and of itself becomes a way bigger issue with this person or this boundary that's happening. So let me give you an example, because I know it's a little out there, but if you are somebody that's highly sensitive, we can get overwhelmed. And so it's nice to just get some space. So here's my example. I am a mom of two little babies. And this is fairly common for new moms, but we get touched out by like 10 a.m. in the morning. And what that means is we all have different levels of like touching and how much physical touch we like and enjoy and makes us feel good before we're overwhelmed. And as a mom with a toddler pulling on your legs and pulling your hair and just hugging you and loving on you, it could be good things too, right? It's not just the hair pulling and the pulling on your leg and you can't even go into the bathroom by yourself. It's also the hugs and the kisses and the loves from littles. And then I have my newborn who wants to nurse and just wants to be attached to me, right? And so by like 10 a.m., I'm like touched out. And I've noticed that what happens is I get incredibly overwhelmed when people want to be in my space, right? And when I'm overwhelmed, I don't make the best decisions. I don't stand up for myself, and I will choose the easiest answer. And often that easier answer is not having conversations about boundaries. Usually that is the easier answer of just saying yes, right, to something instead of having that discomfort that comes from no. So I know you're like, well, this tip's like kind of related, kind of not, but like if you are somebody that's highly sensitive and identifies as an empath, get really serious about protecting your physical space, because even I don't necessarily have this, but a lot of other people that classify themselves as highly sensitive do, that like textiles and color and pattern and like just even touching fabric and stuff, if there's too much of that going on around them, like they get really overwhelmed. And I've noticed this particularly for me personally as a mom, when I get touched out, where I'm like, I can't have one more person grab my hair. I can't have one more person give me a hug, because I don't even feel in control of my own body. And so it's really important when we start to establish and hold those boundaries that we start to establish and hold, what's this physical space? Who's allowed in it? When is too much? And how do I recharge this? Because then we can make our best decisions. I want to add here too that if you are in a face-to-face conversation with somebody talking about holding your boundaries, right? Like having that hard conversation of like, hey, you know, this friendship is not equal. Like I'm feeling like you're kind of smothering me a little bit, right? It is really important too, in that like face-to-face interactions with people, having a conversation about boundaries to hold your physical space, especially if you're somebody that is highly sensitive, because it's just gonna be a lot to take in. And so hold your physical space, keep a little bit of space from them so that you feel like you have a place to be that's safe and grounding. My third tip for you is to limit time with specific people. So if you are having a hard time setting and holding your boundaries, limit your time with anybody that pushes those boundaries. I know that this seems like a no-brainer, but often for I've said it too many times, empathetic people, we feel bad. We're like, oh, it's fine. We'll just do it this one time, of like letting them hang out, or oh, I said I would do it, so I'll go over that, right? You know, we feel bad because of what we think is happening in their head and what we think they're experiencing. So I'm here to tell you that to just ease this transition before we maybe even have a hard conversation, let's just limit time with them. Let's limit their access to us. Well, babe, there you have it. Those are my 3 tips for setting and holding your boundaries, especially if you are a highly sensitive individual. This can be hard. This takes so much practice, and especially as somebody that identifies with others, that feels what they're feeling, that can put themselves in their shoes, it can be really hard to take a step back. So I hope that these tips help ease you into those hard conversations where we choose discomfort over resentment, and also help ease, you know, the transition period of working on our thoughts around this and learning to be somebody that sets and holds our boundaries. So babe, I hope this video sends you off with so much luck You got this. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are looking to master young adulthood and beyond. That's what my channel is focused on. So I have been so grateful you'd watch this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Abbi J out.